Welcome to the Nexus Energy Center Show, a monthly podcast delivering interviews and discussions with individuals involved in energy policy, projects, services, and support. Nexus Energy Center is a nonprofit organization committed to educating our community on energy conservation, efficiency, and renewable solutions. We are your hosts, Ruchi Singhal and Jim Plourde, presenting from the 2016 Energy Huntsville Annual Summit at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
We've got a great show for you today. We'll be speaking with Governor John Sununu, past governor of New Hampshire and chief of staff to President George H.W. Bush. Also, Blake Kinney with the Alabama Public Service Commission, Congressman Zach Wamp, past member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and Dr. Bill Carswell, Director of Energy Huntsville and a research scientist at the University of Alabama, Huntsville.
We hope you enjoy the show, and be sure to tune in next month for more great discussions around energy and energy efficiency.
Joining us today is Governor John Sununu, the 75th governor of New Hampshire and the White House Chief of Staff under President George H.W. Bush from 1989 to 1991. And sir, today earlier you spoke of the importance of the president investing both political capital and personal energy to develop and implement effective energy legislation. Can you briefly touch on your experience in building an effective energy and environmental policy in the George H.W. Bush White House?
Well, nothing happens in Washington without presidential leadership. And you know, we talk about gridlock, but gridlock is really built into the constitutional process. It used to be called checks and balances, and what you need is a president that is willing to invest personal time and personal capital to deal with reluctant Congresses in order to get legislation. Congress has to be led by a president, whether it's the same party as the president or the opposite party. The president I worked for had to deal with a Congress that was 260 to 175 controlled by the opposite party, the Democrats, and the Senate was 55-45 controlled by the opposite party. So he I think, demonstrated that by investing his time, sitting down with the leadership of both parties, working out details, spending his capital, making the tough compromises, he ended up getting some great legislation.
And we've lived for a long time now with what some people would call gridlock or checks and balances that have produced very little in terms of energy policy, tangible energy policy. Do you think that the people are frustrated enough and ready for change for an effective energy policy? Has that tide shifted?
Well, I think the policy put in place in the 90, 91, 92 years has served the country well. It opened up exploration. We are now on the verge of being independent with oil. We're going to be an exporter. We've had fracking and bringing in gas supplies, which has dramatically driven down the cost of energy in this country. We had a policy that certainly promoted conservation and provided support for some of the alternative energy resources. So we had a policy that brought us to a pretty good place, and an environmental policy based on the amendments the president got to the Clean Air Act. But it's about time that we modernize those to deal with some of the aspects of new technology we have that involves both energy generation and energy exploration, and I do think it's an appropriate time to do that.
Wonderful. Well, Mr. Sununu, thank you for joining us here at the Nexus Energy event. We appreciate your time today, sir.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed being here.
Wonderful.
Okay, so we're here today with Blake. He works in the PSC's Commissioner Oden's office.
Correct.
And I wanted to have Blake share with us a little bit about Commissioner Oden and his beliefs on energy efficiency and, in general, the climate in Alabama when it comes to clean energy solutions. Blake?
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Next month will be 4 years I've worked with Commissioner Oden at the PSC, and in that 4-year time frame, we've seen a lot of changes both in the state and nationally. Currently, in the electricity aspect of Alabama, at least within our jurisdiction, which is solely regarding Alabama Power, our jurisdiction does not extend to municipalities or co-ops or wholesalers. But with Alabama Power, what we're really seeing is a large glut of electricity going on. Following the recession, we haven't had that petrochemical company or a manufacturer come in and really make up for the loss that we experienced 7-8 years ago. But saying that, we also see that there's not a new need for generation in the short-term future. So as we see different policies take shape and the implications of policy design around the nation regarding clean energy and other aspects of the energy market, we're able to really choose the best ideas and try to come up with a format for Alabama where regulation is appropriate without overreaching, and business can also thrive and grow. And in regards to energy efficiency, Alabama we have a lot of trailers, a lot of multiple family dwellings here in the state, and like much of our infrastructure, a lot of those dwelling places seem to be on the older side. Rather than new builds, we have a lot of existing dwelling places. And there's a huge opportunity there for energy efficiency, and any type of investment we can do in that regard will lower real power bills.
Yes.
Without a need for legislation or federal policy. If we can allow these people to make investments in their own facility, their own business or a residential dwelling place, they can lower their power bills. That's real money they can put back in their pockets.
So it sounds like you guys are definitely behind bringing about more energy education to those that need it, to those that really need to lower their bills, make their homes more comfortable, something that Nexus Energy Center is very passionate about. One thing that Nexus has a hard time in is, we got started here in Huntsville, Alabama. We do want to help the entire state, but just reaching down there and getting the right partners. Would you say that the PSC would be a good partner for Nexus Energy Center to explore ideas on how to get the word out there to all of Alabama? Hey, here's how you can save.
I do think with the PSC being represented by 3 elected officials that you do have a good makeup of the constituents in Alabama. These people were voted and put there by Alabamians, and therefore should be representing Alabamians' interests. PSC, previously your partnership with ADECA, that's a great continued relationship, I hope.
Yes, definitely.
We all have our different niche areas within state government, but we all serve the people of Alabama. So not only is it a great opportunity for Nexus to join the PSC and ADECA, but also for PSC, ADECA, the Department of Energy, ADEM, various state agencies to work together to benefit the people overall. And another tidbit on energy efficiency, specifically in regards to our regulatory authority with Alabama Power, the ability to reduce bad debt is a benefit to all ratepayers. So some of these, like Mississippi, for instance, has taken some initiatives targeting low-income individuals, people that live below the threshold, the poverty threshold. And some of those measures have really positive impacts on the overall bad debt that a company has to carry. So not only is there a benefit to lowering your power bill by installing light bulbs, home automation, et cetera, but it also can benefit all ratepayers as a whole if we can lower the amount of bad debt.
Very good. Well, thanks, Blake. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
We look forward to staying in touch with you in your office.
Glad
and we
to be
know
here.
we can make Alabama a better place.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Nexus.
All right. Thank you. Congressman Wong, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We're at the Energy Huntsville Summit, and we really appreciate you taking the time to participate. I had a few questions for you, one from your past. When you were in Congress before 2011, did you feel that energy policies were under some gridlock, that it was hard to get things passed? What did you feel like the climate was at the legislation level with getting energy policies passed?
Well, it's interesting to hear Governor Sununu's historical perspective from the Bush 41 years, from 88 to 92, where they actually moved major energy legislation. In that 4-year period of time, most people don't realize that in 2006, in the second Bush term, was the very next sweeping energy legislation, the Energy Policy Act of 2006. It was considered to be a Bush-Cheney bill. It was primarily an oil and gas bill. It was driven by Joe Barton, the Commerce chairman in the House out of Texas. Kevin Brady and others advocated. I actually wrote the energy conservation title of that bill when I was the chairman of the Renewable Energy Conservation Caucus. And so industry helped me put it together, and it was really the best energy conservation title in the history of the country. So we did have an energy policy act in 2006, and we're still standing on that today. There really hasn't been an adaptation to that in the last 10 years. People more and more, though, realize that energy is not just the Department of Energy or the oil embargoes of the late 70s or nuclear that energy is like national security. It's a homeland security issue. The grid is vulnerable. So the energy and national security and the environment are like three concentric circles, and where they meet is the future of civilization. That's why I think Huntsville's really smart to get out front on energy, not just defense and aerospace and big data and IT and all the things they do so well, but energy is really connected inseparably to national security and the environment. I predict that water is the next big frontier. Yes. The availability of water. Yes. We don't say ever that natural resources cause wars, but I got to tell you, oil and gas and water and these natural resources are geopolitical fractures. They can cause divisions, and everybody wants them. Yes. And so there's like a global chase. So they're all important. The more independent we can become, the more efficient we can become, the more we can export U.S.-led technologies and energy, the better off we're going to be. It's just that simple. That's what this is about, from the small business level to large business. And frankly, we heard a lot today that the government cannot pick winners and losers. Let the marketplace do that. Put everybody on a level playing field and let the marketplace dictate what makes it to the marketplace first. So it's exciting, and I left Congress and knew that I was going to gravitate towards national security and energy because I knew that the demand was going to increase, the costs were going to increase, and that there was a lot to do in these areas, and that's what I've been heavily engaged in the last 5.5 years.
I completely agree. I mean, there's so much growth potential in energy. Nexus Energy Center has been focused on the efficiency side. You mentioned efficiency a minute ago. Tell us a little bit about now as a consultant, as a collaborator. Does efficiency and energy efficiency, is that a focus with where you're heading?
Well, sure it is. And like I work with an ESCO that's a sponsor here. And they put the capital up to create efficiencies where customers don't have the money. And so, that's clearly, everybody wants to be more efficient, but if you can't get your hands on the money, you got an issue.
Yeah.
So there's all kind of new ways, from water and electricity and gas, to save. And, if you calculate energy conservation since the oil embargoes of 1978 as an energy source, it's the number one energy source. So we have saved more than the entire oil and gas sector since 78 on energy conservation and energy efficiency programs. That doesn't mean the government programs need to grow. That means the private sector needs to get smarter, better, and our innovation, we talked about this at dinner with Governor Sununu last night, the one thing the U.S. has led on is innovation and technology. We sometimes labor is a problem because labor costs more here than it does in other markets, other countries. But one thing that we blow them away at is technology. I mean, dude, everybody in the world is using an Apple iPhone. That came from the United States, and it's just one example. There's many. Actually, the space industry right above me here is a U.S.-led industry. They followed, we led. So it's really cool, but that's what we have to do is continue to push the envelope for new innovations and inventions and technology growth in energy, and it'll serve us well.
Thank you so much, Congressman Wong. We're so excited that you're here today.
My
We've
pleasure.
learned a lot. We look forward to staying in touch.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm here a lot now, and that's good because Huntsville, once again, is leading, and this is a heck of a place. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
We're here with Bill Carswell. He is the Executive Director of Energy Huntsville. We're so excited to have him here because we want to hear his thoughts and perspectives as the Energy Huntsville Director, especially while we're at the Energy Huntsville Summit 2016 at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you, Jim.
And
Appreciate
Dr.
it.
Carswell, you've been the executive director now for 2 years.
2
Is that
years.
correct?
That's correct. I joined the organization about 3 years ago, and when they looked for a new director, I was the last person to leave the room.
That's a good way of looking at it.
That happens in volunteer
I have
organizations.
to admit, I left the room too. So no. You've been a great director. I did.
It's your fault.
No, you've been a great director over the last 2 years. We wanted to get more of your perspective on what you've seen from when you started to even today.
Yeah, how has the organization evolved over the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, my perspective first, when I first entered, was that we were supposed to diversify the economy of Huntsville as a mayoral initiative to get away from our dependence on government contracting and go into the commercial world. And that quickly changed as I realized we don't want to get away from government contracting. That's our bread and butter. We want to add other elements. And when I got that, I realized that having the Army Corps of Engineers here in town, who has the button for the U.S. Army for global energy programs, was a huge plum. And that's why the mayor did this. He was looking into the future. He knew what he was doing. And once I got that, then it was easy.
Yeah.
Because you engage the stakeholders that have the current foundations for energy, and then start bringing in outsiders to show them what we have and show our members and our community what the rest of the world has to offer.
And that membership base has really grown over the years, right? There's been a significant realization of the value that Energy Huntsville brings to the private sector in a phenomenal opportunity to engage with those decision makers and stakeholders that are developing energy projects around the world.
Yes, and I don't even want to take credit for that. I'm the kind of person that when things go well, I give credit to the team, and when things go bad, I'm the first person to take the bullet because I don't want anyone on my team taking a bullet when it's a team thing. But when we were formed, what is it? I want to say 4, but I think it's 5 or 6 years ago now. It was basically 4 people in a room. You know, the mayor said, "Why don't you do this?" And somebody said, "Oh yeah, it's a good idea. Let's talk about it." Well, we moved from that to having formal meetings with speakers, and then General Pillsbury and Cole Walker set up a 501c6 nonprofit trade association, a formal organization, and they started having some structure where they had formal memberships and formal sponsorships, and that was about when I took over. So the fact that we've had a tremendous amount of growth since I took over really is just because of what was set, the stage that was set before me. And I just kind of nursed it through. And I love being in that position because I get credit for stuff I didn't do.
Well, and the partnership with the Space and Rocket Center, that really helped too. You know, being located here, I think that it gives you a little more visibility.
And the Space and Rocket Center has to get so much credit for so much more than just Energy Huntsville. I mean, you're here now, Ruchi.
That's true. Nexus Energy Center's here too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And she's passionate and committed to energy because it's good for her bottom line to reduce
Dr.
energy
Barnhart,
expenses.
the CEO. Yeah.
Dr. Barnhart, the CEO. It reduces her operating expense. So energy's green. Even it doesn't matter which perspective you're coming from. If you're an environmentalist, reducing your energy footprint is green because it helps the environment. If you're a business person, it's green because it helps your bottom line.
Yep.
And so these days, it doesn't matter what your motivation is.
win-win.
The outcome is the same.
Yep.
And that's why I think the next 4 years are going to be kind of interesting because the outcome's going to be the same, regardless of what your motivation is or what you think anyone else's motivation is. So Dr. Barnhart is committed to making this a net zero campus. Net zero is a misunderstood term. People think it means you're off the grid. Net zero means I'm going to create as much energy as I use.
Yep.
It might be that I create more at certain times and just feed it back to the grid, and then at other times, like when the sun has set, I may draw it back. But the net zero concept is important, and she's committed to that. And she has embraced Energy Huntsville.
Yes.
She likes, when she talks about it, she likes to wrap her arms around a cradle, like she's holding a baby. And she said, I want to embrace Energy Huntsville and give them the opportunity to grow and succeed. For example, she's working with you on putting tiny homes out on the energy trail for nonprofits. She cares about this community and this group. So it's been great to be able to work with her.
Yeah.
And it's exciting that she's also exploring the idea of a microgrid right here at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center around the aviation sector of the installation. So talk to us a little bit more about microgrids and not only what the U.S. Space and Rocket Center has been doing, but what you've been working at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, in Huntsville, UAH. Microgrids is a very commonly misunderstood term. If you talk to someone who's a technologist and a purist, there's an IEEE standard developing for microgrids, and it has to do certain things in a certain amount of time, or it has to be able to run all of its loads without shedding. It has to have a single point of contact with the grid so it can immediately separate from the grid. It has to do so in a fraction of a second, one cycle of 60 hertz, and on and on and on. There's all these details, but when people talk about microgrids, what they really mean is if the grid goes down, I can still operate. I might shed my loads that are non-necessary so that it's only my critical loads that are operating, like my central heat and air in my house or something like that.
Yep.
And that's okay. Just know what everybody's talking about. So with microgrids, she does want to be able to withstand a catastrophic event like our tornadoes, so that using her hundreds and hundreds of beds she has for Space Camp kids and for the Marriott here on campus, she could be a community resource during times of catastrophe. That's a huge deal.
That's a big deal.
So anyways, that's what the microgrid is here. At some point, when I first joined Energy Huntsville, I was working at UAH, and I wanted to start doing research at UAH in energy, and they don't have really an energy program. There's no energy degree. Not anywhere, actually.
Yeah.
And the president's like, oh, that's nice, pat me on the head and let me go away or something. So we got the mayor to call. The mayor called the president of the university, and we wrote an MOU. We actually, I wrote it, and said, we're going to do these things together. We're going to do some research on energy, and the city of Huntsville, through Energy Huntsville, and the university, through my research lab, and the president of the university signed a memorandum of understanding. That gave me license to play. And they gave me an old building that had some solar power set up to it, but no one was really using. And it had some batteries in it. And I went in and I created a building that is an example of what we could do once Huntsville Utilities rolls out its smart meters. What good is a smart meter? It lets you know what you're using, how much power you're using, when. So what do you do with that information? Well, if I'm using too much power, I can turn off the grid and use my batteries. And it's complicated. I don't want to go into it on this podcast, but there's a financial aspect involved, a profit and loss. And my students, systems engineering students, calculated a 3.5-year return on investment from our technology.
Wow.
That's huge. And that's just using a technology now that Huntsville Utilities is rolling out. They're testing it right now, and they've invested in my lab to help make it a community demonstration resource of what we can do once that is provided by Huntsville Utilities. That's a fantastic thing.
We'll definitely do a directed podcast just from that lab. Maybe we can talk to some of your students.
That'd be great.
That'll be something to really look forward to.
Well, we built a smart building because I was in charge and I wanted to do something high tech. And now I've got what's called the Green Club.
Okay.
And they want to build a tiny home.
Yep.
They want to make it an off-grid tiny home because that's the popular thing. It's attractive. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And students are attracted by that. So we're building it. I said, okay, we can do that. And the next thing I know, all this wood is showing up and sheetrock. I didn't have to do anything.
I know what that's like. Nexus has built a tiny home.
That's right, yeah. And we need to get your tiny, we'll come bring them to your tiny home because it's a great example of how to do this kind of thing. So that's going on. So we've gone from building a high-tech thing to a low-tech thing, and basically we're going to become an energy lab, like you have physics lab and chemistry lab and all those things. And we're going to have this as an interdisciplinary lab for basically business, liberal arts, engineering, science. All those schools can find some value here.
Nice. That's really great. We can't thank you enough, Bill. It's been an amazing summit. We've met so many great vendors, speakers, participants. But without your leadership and the board chair Jay Newkirk's leadership, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Before we go, I would like to say something. The university did an article on my lab, and there's a video out there.
Yes.
And if you Google UAH, University of Alabama, Huntsville, UAH Smart Electrical Systems.
Okay.
That article will come out.
Oh, perfect.
And it's a fantastic little video about the lab and the capabilities there, and I'd love for you to see it.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll post that on the Nexus Energy Center website as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Ruchi,
Bill
Jim,
Carswell.
it's been a
Dr.
pleasure.
Carswell, thank you for joining me.
Hey, we are here with the Energy Huntsville chairman of the board, Jay Newkirk, and we're so excited. We're still at the Energy Huntsville Summit 2016. And Jay has seen some great turnout here, some great conversations, and we really wanted to talk to him about that and get his perspective. So Jay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks. I'm honored to be asked to speak because I'm passionate about what we're doing. So anytime I can share what I'm feeling and what we're trying to accomplish is useful to me and to us, and hopefully helpful to the community.
Well, Jay, you've done a great job of developing Energy Huntsville from scratch. It's turned into a tremendous organization. Can you tell us about the genesis of Energy Huntsville and why you developed the summit associated with Energy Huntsville?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that, because I get to share with everybody that we had a sort of a humble beginnings several years, I think it's almost 5 or 6 years ago, when Mayor Tommy Battle was looking for someone to sort of lead an organization that could sort of help the technology base here that's been mostly focused on aerospace, try to figure out a way to help companies diversify their business base into the energy sector, because it's a growing sector, and he was frankly concerned about this administration spending money in the defense arena. So it helps our economic base to do this. So we had that as a beginning point. It was Tommy Battle's vision to do this, and he asked me to sort of lead it for him, and so we kicked it off with about 10 of us.
Tommy Battle is the mayor of Huntsville.
Yeah, Tommy's the mayor of Huntsville, and it's one of 3 initiatives that he's started to sort of do that very same thing, not only in energy but in cyber as well as geospatial. So we are the energy sector, and we're excited about it because it's a big market. I mean, while defense is obviously a huge market here and it's the base, but energy is very helps companies diversify both commercially and into the government itself. So that was the beginning, Jim. We started it with about 10 of us, and we made a decision to look, if we're going to really try to attract people and help them diversify, we need to do something every month, whatever that is. So we made a decision to have monthly meetings, and in those meetings we do 3 things. We have a program where we have someone come in from the industry or from the government and talk about what's hot, what's important in the energy sector right now. And then we have a company that sort of supported us in building an opportunity database where members could actually look and see what's available in terms of energy contracts and get some help in terms of the direction that they should take to diversify. And then the third thing we do, as you all both know, is that we have a networking session where we have everybody put your badges back on, find each other, team up, and let's get after this work. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the beginning. And so now we've been doing those monthly meetings for the several years. And 3 years ago, we had a decision, let's do a summit. Let's do an energy event where we invite the government and industry leaders to come in and share with our members and other people in the community who are trying to grow their businesses in energy to learn. So that's what the summit objective is really all about.
Absolutely. And during this summit, you had some very high-profile, impactful presenters with very powerful messaging around energy efficiency, energy programs, and opportunities. And it was not only networking with policymakers, decision makers, and influencers, but it was a huge business development opportunity for these participants as well. I think that I walked away from this hearing so many comments about people uncovering opportunities for not only new business, but growth of existing opportunities and new partnerships as well. So a huge networking opportunity.
Yeah, it's really, there's a lot to be said about all of that, Jim. First of all, let me say this to you personally and others, and Ruchi as well. I mean, the sponsors that back what we're doing is the key to what we're able to accomplish, because we're really, a 501c6, we're really in the business of helping folks and connecting people up. So the summit is our answer to really doing that in an efficient sort of way. So, the sponsors and the exhibitors are the ones that really sort of make it happen. So we make the attendance affordable, small fee to kind of come and join us. And then what we do is put together a program each year, try to do it differently each year, that attracts attendees to come and learn about what's going on in the energy sector and how they can grow their companies. So, what we did this year, we had 3 segments in the event. And, the first one was really I guess we entitled it Energy Entrepreneurs, and we really had a group of people come and talk about success stories around what they've done in terms of actually growing their companies in the energy sector. And our keynote speaker was really kind of very interesting because Zach Wamp, who really led that session, thought we ought to bring somebody in that could overlay what we're doing here in the energy sector with policy and government kind of perspective. And so ex-governor from New Hampshire, Governor Sununu, came as our keynote speaker and launched us into the event. And it was very interesting because he wasn't talking necessarily about energy, but he was talking about leadership, talking about if you're going to succeed, you better have somebody with a vision that can take you where it is you're trying to go. And he talked about his experiences, in the early 90s, as the chief of staff for President Bush, and talked about the importance of gathering people around you that really have a vision and they know where they want to go, and sort of accomplish what it is your vision and your mission is by making sure that you take on leadership responsibility. So it was a nice kickoff, I think. It wasn't about energy necessarily, but it was about success and about leadership, and we really appreciate him coming and sharing his thoughts with us, because it launched the event well, I thought.
I completely agree, and I have to say, Jay, that when I left Sununu's talk, I really felt like it was an idea incubation activity, right? It wasn't just a talk about policy making and decision making from an executive level, but it got everybody thinking about how to work together, how to extract information from the chaos, and how to do something with it.
Right.
And as I walked the halls of this event, I saw people networking with each other and thinking not just in terms of a project, but how to create something from nothing in many instances, right? How to pursue projects and develop projects, and thinking way out of the box.
Well, all kinds of things come to mind. We've worked, the three of us have worked together over the years, so we know each other well, but basically, in the energy sector particularly, there's a lot of products. I mean, your company, Schneider Electric, of course, produces large amounts of products that really support the energy industry. And of course, Ruchi's been working with the community to try to help people to get focused on efficiency and all. But where I'm headed with this comment is that, and what Sununu was really talking about was that while we've got great products and we've got great solutions and we've got software systems and big data and all that sort of thing, lots of tools, but what it comes down to ultimately succeeding, whether it's energy or whatever it is, it really is in leadership, visionaries, and surrounding yourself with people that are better than you in areas where you need support. So these networking sessions are creating an opportunity for people to really overlay all of that with the human element. It's the key to success, which is what I've always done, and I guess in the success I've had in my life and career, it's really been about that. And when Bobby Bradley and I launched Computer Systems Technology, we knew we didn't have all the answers. And so we surrounded ourselves with people that were better than we were, and we got them to buy into what our vision for what we were doing was, and we took a company from 3 of us to 1,000 people, sold it. So I'm a living example of leadership is really the key, and it's not so much telling people what to do, it's telling them what the outcome is that you want, and to let them use the skills they have and their excitement to help you take whatever it is you're doing to a successful end. So if I get credit for anything, I think I've probably helped this organization start from a very 10 of us and grown around that concept, which is why we have these monthly meetings and why I would get up every month and say something like, okay, look, this is the theme of Energy Huntsville. Our mission is you. We're here to help you grow your companies in the energy sector, and whatever we can do to help you, we're here for you.
I love that story, and especially the idea of leadership and painting a picture of what the destination is and allowing people to work in concert with each other to get to that destination. So it's not driving, it's painting a picture and pulling people along.
And I'll say, Jim, from my experience with Energy Huntsville, I was probably one of those 10 that we were first sitting down together, and the mayor really wanted to see an initiative started on surrounding energy. Since that day, this isn't just all theory. We've actually seen some collaborations come out of this.
Yeah.
And one of the big ones I would say is with the Army Corps.
Right.
You know, the Army Corps partnering with the Energy Huntsville and really being an open clearinghouse of information to these small and large businesses on what they're doing for energy solutions for the federal installations is huge. And that's just one example. So what the dream is of Energy Huntsville, it seems like it's all coming out to reality now.
Well, it is. I appreciate you saying that, Ruchi, because that's a perfect segue into the second session of the event, because it was the Corps of Engineers,
Right.
and we, had some really important people come down from Washington all over the place to be in that session, and it turns out that Portia Porter, who is a division chief at the Corps of Engineers, really coordinated that for us, and she herself is visionary. She's running a division that's really trying to help the Corps find resources to support their client base, because they're a fee-for-service agency. So she's looking for members of Energy Huntsville to include, both what Ruchi's doing in Nexus and what Jim's doing in Schneider, to come and help them satisfy what they're trying to do to accomplish their mission of helping these installations around the world for the Army to get into the energy business seriously and save energy, because the Army is spending a lot of money on energy, and if any organization needs help, they do. And the beauty of the partnership, like you said, Ruchi, between Energy Huntsville and the Corps, is that we are a resource for them to sort of help solve the problems that they're trying to solve. So I thought the panel that Portia put together was so important. I mean, there was 8 of them, and they were from I guess we had people here from the Air Force. We had the director of the Office of Energy Initiatives that operates out of the Pentagon, that really the Corps sort of doesn't exactly report to them, but they're partnering with them. They're doing large energy efficiency projects around the country, and they support the Corps here, who's doing smaller but very broadly based energy efficiency programs. So that panel, brought to the attendees a very broad perspective of where the government is really going and what's important to what their mission is. So it's about as good as it gets. If you really think about who we are, Energy Huntsville, we're trying to help small companies and large companies come together. It was about as good as it gets, because they were really sharing with both the large companies that were in attendance and the small companies basically what they can look forward to in terms of really growing their companies in the energy sector. So having the Corps being facilitating a segment of our event was really, really important, and I thought it was well received.
Absolutely. And incidentally, the summit is the culmination of an entire year of work and participation by people within the monthly events, right? So there's a tremendous networking and business development and learning and leadership opportunity every month. It's
Right.
not just the summit. The summit is the culmination of that. But talk a little bit about the monthly events and what happens here.
Well, particularly for people who are listening to our podcast, you need to come because what we're really doing is trying to create an environment where people can meet one another. We advertise our monthly meeting around opportunities and around the program and all that, but really the power of the event is really what happens afterwards. I like to sort of watch what happens at the end of the meeting, and you can sort of see things happening. I'll give somebody a plug here. I had Danny Spencer come to me one day, and he said he's the president and CEO of Spectrum Solutions here. And he's one of the success stories, because he came to me one day and he said, Jay, I don't think people really realize how valuable what you're doing is. He said, I've met some people here that have made a huge difference in my company and the growth we've experienced. And so he's really, truly a success story around just he and about 3 of his leadership people started coming to our meetings, and now I think they're up to 30 people, and they're having real success. So I like to point to them and others who are benefiting from what we've done. And Jim, the monthly meetings are just very much that. I really love doing it. Of course, now I've got Bill Carswell sort of doing that, the executive leadership for me. I'm the chairman now, but getting up in front of the group every week and saying something like, okay, look, folks, take your badges off. Let's meet one another. Let's figure out what we can do to further the economic development base for our community and our region around energy, support each other, collaborate, learn from each other, and then after the program and after you put your badges back on, find each other, and team up and get after it. So that's kind of the theme. That's what we're doing every month, and it's grown. And we're at a point where we really want to take it to another level. I think the summit is sort of an example of the fact that we are getting a broad reach, because we're getting people coming in not only regionally but even nationally now to participate in what we're doing. So Tommy's whole objective, Mayor Battle's objective, was to sort of support and strengthen and do economic development for the city, for our area here, which I think we accomplished pretty quickly. I think we're about to grow up. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. So those of you listening to this, we need help. If you've got some ideas on how we can take this broader and reach out and touch a lot of people beyond where we are right now, we need your help.
Well, that's great messaging, Jay. So Mr. Jay Newkirk, Executive Director of Energy Huntsville, it's an honor, and thank you for your service here in developing this group, and thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you all very much for inviting me.
Thanks, Jay. And if you, some of the people that Jay just mentioned with Governor Sununu and Congressman Womp, we have an interview with them on this podcast.
Oh, good.
So if you were unable to actually come to the summit this year, we encourage you to, keep checking us out, because the people you miss, we should be able to get them. But come to the meetings; it's worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, every third Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning at the Space and Rocket Center.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. Thank you for tuning in to the Nexus Energy Center Show with your hosts, Ruchi and Jim. The Energy Huntsville Summit is the perfect venue to kick off our monthly podcast. We will be back this December at the next Energy Huntsville meeting. These podcasts will be posted on our Nexus Energy Center YouTube channel, as well as on our website and the Energy Huntsville website.
During each podcast, we'll bring you interviews and discussions with key stakeholders in the area of energy. It's been our pleasure to spend this time with you, and look forward to speaking with you again next month.